What's going on, friends? Hipster Punchy here, back with a review of the Criterion release of Roma. This is a fantastic film, a beautifully shot and heartfelt film directed by Alfonso Cuarón, which during last year's run of the Oscars ended up winning Best Director. I feel it should have won Best Picture. Definitely a stronger film than Green Book. But regardless, this is the first film in the Netflix Criterion partnership, something I'm going to talk about in a future video, but this is the first one. This is a movie that honestly no one was sure if it was going to see a physical release, mostly due to Netflix's business model. They really don't release that many of their properties on physical media. They've released Stranger Things. I think they've done a couple seasons of Orange is the New Black. But most of their originals do not see the light of day in physical form. So seeing something like this where they partner with Criterion is actually a mutually beneficial partnership. With Criterion, they get great films like Roma and The Irishman and Marriage Story and other films that have been announced that we'll, again, talk about in a future video. For Netflix, having their movies with this label on the corner here gives their films an air of legitimacy, something that they did not really have up until this point. Their TV shows had that great branding to them and that great push, but most people thought for the most part that their films were hit or miss. But they've had a hell of a couple years, again, with this, with Marriage Story, with The Irishman, with so many others. This is the perfect first Criterion for Netflix because the director has been in the collection before with Y Tu Mamá También. I know I'm probably going to get killed on that pronunciation, but it is what it is. And it's probably the most artistic film Netflix had released up until this point. I'll be right back with the review. And I'm back. First thing we're going to talk about is the packaging. They went with the Digipack casing here. I'm kind of a fan of that decision. I think it goes well with the shot picked, which I think is one of my favorites in the movie. I know her huddled with the family is probably the best shot in the movie, but I think this is the best shot for the cover if they were going to go with a live action shot. And it's not the like thick Digipack like Do the Right Thing, but... And then here's actually the shot of the family huddled up as the main insert. And then of her in the car, which is after the spoiler alert, not so happy birth scene in there. I'm not going to spoil anything other than that. What I really love is this has a thick booklet. Look at this. They don't do this often. We've gotten a lot of them where the booklet has been just a fold-out poster. So, you know, either Netflix or Criterion invested in this and got as many essays and as many, like, literary supplements for this film as they possibly could. It's a nice touch, and I like it. A little bit of background here. So, Alfonso, he made a film that was going to be about his upbringing in the 70s in Mexico. He also wanted to make it mainly revolve around the nanny and not the family. So he actually followed his nanny around, learned the fact that the indigenous Mexican population spoke a kind of a merger of Spanish and Aztec, and for when they wanted to have personal conversations with each other. And that's something he actually incorporated into the film as part of the two nannies talking with each other. The film itself is a masterpiece. This feels like the film that Alfonso Cuarón had been working his way towards his entire career that has spanned since the mid-90s. This is the perfection of everything he's learned with each film that he's made before this, and it's got a great human story that's also draped around a very political moment in Mexican history in the 60s. So I implore you to watch this film. It is definitely going to be considered an important piece of cinema. Something that, honestly, it probably should have been the first non-English language film to win Best Picture. I know Parasite got it, and it's very deserving. I think that distinction should have happened a year sooner. because this was definitely the best film of last year, but also, well, 2 years ago, you know what I mean. But also the best film, or one of the best films of the decade. This is absolutely an important film, and you need to see this. And I'm not spoiling anything, I rarely do this, but this is a movie that you need to go see. Now, as for the transfer and audio, I'm going to point something out. I do think the transfer for the film is better on the Blu-ray than on Netflix. But I also think that there's going to be a lot of people who aren't going to notice because there's not a lot of trained eyes, and they might just see the experience on the streaming and think, okay, that's good enough. But honestly, this is the kind of movie where you need it at its absolute best. To be able to hear the sound as it should be, to be able to see the pictures as they should be. Because the writing tells the story, but the scenery and the cinematography also absolutely tells the story. And some of the work put into these shots deserves you viewing it at its best. And this is not like a David Lynchian, like everything's got to be perfect argument. This is one of the films where you should definitely, if you have a Blu-ray player or a game system, invest in if you like the movie and if you care about the movie that much. Listen, I got debates of what people asking why I got this, even though it's on Netflix. I mean, they know I collect Criterions, but there was still that question because it's streaming on Netflix. But again, you will never get the best quality picture on a streaming service. I could do an entire episodic series on why that's not happening right now. But we're keeping this to Roma, and the transfer is crisp. The audio is full in this. They did a great job with this transfer. I mean, it's a fairly recent movie, which helps. But this is the best version of the film. Okay, for the last segment of this review, I'm going to talk about the featurettes on this one. The first one, the main one, is, I think, also on Netflix. It's a documentary, a feature-length documentary, even, called Road to Roma, which is about the making of the film. And you go into a lot of Alfonso Cuarón's directing style and how he approached this film in this documentary. This is the overall story of the making of the film. And what I like about this, in conjunction with the other features, are that all the featurettes are about different aspects of the making and presentation of this film. But this is the main, like, I guess, human interest story of those features for the making of the film. Alfonso talks about his background, talks about what he's looking for, how much detail he went into with the shot selection, how the choice to go to black and white impacted the filming of the movie. So there's actually a lot of information. Sometimes, at times, almost too much information, because there was a lot being thrown at you during this. But I think it's a good thing here, because especially if you're looking to get into filmmaking or into film and TV like I am, like, it's amazing to watch, and you're making mental notes here and there, be like, damn it, why didn't I think of this? And that's why he's a great director and great writer, a great human interest guy. So, again, don't be that guy who just gets it and doesn't watch the features. You need to watch at least this. Also, there's something called Snapshots from the Set, which is basically the cast and crew talking about their experiences making the film. And from what I've gathered from this featurette, it was actually a very good and very relaxed set. It was probably for the best because most of the cast is not experienced in acting. I believe the guy who played the father had never acted before, and this was his first acting gig. So, like, it was good to hear about, and it's good to hear about a director like Alfonso Cuarón not being just a raging douche nozzle. Like, it's one of the things, again, refreshing, but it also meshes well with Road to Roma and is a great companion piece. There's also featurettes on the video and audio end for post-production, which I think are an interesting watch if you're getting into that. Some of the people who are into film but not into filmmaking might not appreciate it as much as the documentaries, but I was enthralled. I was captivated by watching that. And the last featurette is Roma Brings Us Together, which is a documentary about the theatrical presentation of Roma, which was a little more complicated due to the fact that Netflix doesn't really play nice with theater chains. So it mentioned how they had to pivot to the decision to present at independent theaters, and in the country of Mexico, actually do a road show where they took a truck trailer and turned it into a movie theater, a la Gordon Ramsay's 24 Hours Hell and Back type of like truck, which again was an interesting piece about this film and about how it brought a community together. So, like, again, do not skip the features here. This is something that you want to take in all at once, like every single aspect of this. Pick it up, check it out, and don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring that bell. Also, don't forget to catch me on on social medias on Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, and Letterboxd, along with the Reddits at Hipster Punchy. I'll see you guys in a couple videos next week. Have a good one.